Hello everybody! Roofle here, and I bring to you a new game, which will introduce itself in song. Sing along if you know the words.
This is the Guild of Dungeoneering, on a quest we're never veering, oh to be a Dungeoneer, swimming in pools of gold. This is the Guild of Dungeoneering, all the monsters keep appearing, oh to be a Dungeoneer, whose stories will be told. What's that sound? I hear a noise. Something's coming, girls and boys, up from the hills and far away. We're the Guild of Dungeoneering. Curse and swear, but don't despair. The way out of here must be over there. I think we're lost, but what do we care? We're the Guild of Dungeoneering.
Yes, we shall play the Guild of Dungeoneering, complete with the Pirates Cove expansion. The expansion adds a new area to adventure in, as well as 50% more loot items, apparently. I've never actually played it myself, but, you know, I have finished the Guild of Dungeoneering, just not the expansion. Haha. And of course, you do get the opportunity to skip to the new content, because the way this game works is that once you have done a dungeon, you can't go back to it. But no matter, we shall start anew.
This is the Guild of Dungeoneering, all across the land they're cheering, oh, to be a Dungeoneer, chasing fame and glory.
Yes, that's the bard who will he will sing a lot of songs to us, mostly mocking our capability. And the diary is written by our guildmaster. The guildmaster is not me, because, well, I don't like people who are like this guildmaster. The Ivory League of Explorers, the noblest, most virtuous guild in the land. Those insufferable jerks. I'll show them. They won't think me so grossly incompetent when I have my own guild. I've bought a small hall in the bad part of town with the gold I borrowed from them. I've staked out a dungeon that's ripe for the picking. I've even found a chump who can do all the dirty work for me while I sit back and watch the coins roll in. Like my father always told me, there's always someone stupider than yourself. Well, he never really said it to me. Actually, he said it to everyone but me. Hey! Oh well. Here's our guild, this small hall. You might be able to guess what we'll name it, but we need to place the barracks so that we can have access to our first Dungeoneer.
The one that's always left behind, the solitary lump. The pawn who's fodder for the grind. The sorry little chump.
And we have the chump, who, well, there's a reason this class is free. We'll just put it that way. Hooray! We can expand our guild to gain more Dungeoneers. But, we need some money to do that. Take that, chump. I would show off the chump's abilities, but the game won't let me at this point. We have to actually go, adventuring, because we are still kind of in the tutorial phase. But we shall go into this dungeon over here. Rats? How original. Squeak, squeak, because everyone's got to start somewhere. Our Dungeoneer shall be our only option. Come along, Navi. So we are now in the dungeon, but, well, we must create the dungeon. But the computer is going to play our first turn, our tutorial turn. Against the tutorial enemy, the rubber ducky. The rubber ducky we will never see again. Unless, of course, you manage to lose the first mission. But, as far as losing to the rubber ducky, well, while there is an achievement for doing it, it is absolutely impossible for the chump to lose to the rubber ducky. I will demonstrate this. We shall use our feeblest of attacks. Oh, take that. Oh no, it's coming in for a headbutt. What do we do? Oh, we'll punch it again. Yeah. Well, from beating the duck, we get to choose a piece of loot. You can take the wooden stool, or whatever that's used for. Gain stupidity, crush, and armor. Take the pigeon's nest, which is pretty cool, for some growth, for a growth card. Or we can have a party with the paper crown and gain a holy card. Now typically actually quite universally, if a card has stupidity on it, that means that it is especially powerful for its level. And stupidity isn't that dangerous to have. But now that we actually have control, let's take a closer look at our adventurer here. Javi, what can you do? These 6 cards make up the chump deck. Now, the rubber ducky that we had fought has 3 attacks and a stupidity. Its attacks are do 2 damage and take 1 damage, and 2 deal 1 damage and take a damage. If you do the math, it's physically impossible to lose to it with this deck. But no matter. We have 1 card from the repel deck, or 1 card from the arbor deck, 1 card from the crush deck, and 1 card from the stupidity deck. They're all pretty similar. In order to make the best out of this game, well, we need to gather up lots of money, and we can do that here in the tutorial mission by simply not placing monsters to fight. Because we win as soon as we defeat 3 monsters, and the rubber ducky counted. We're not going to be able to avoid fighting this monster, but we can avoid fighting any more. So, let's commence dragging things out. Because that is the best way of gaining all kinds of money. And of course, if I'm going to show off all the classes in the game, we need tons of money. Take that. Now the nasty rat is quite capable of killing us, so we must choose our cards. And with the stupidity, well, we are just full on losing out on one of our card options. Lucky hits, which will put us in the lead. Navi, please draw something that isn't a punch. Well, the neurotoxin will make us discard, but if we only cause 1 damage. If we cause 1 damage, we win. Take this, rat. Aha! Woo! And we have a couple of the new toys from the expansion. Curiously enough, the barrel provides us an extra health, but we get a stupidity card. The kappa is an offhand weapon, so it will replace the stool. But that gives us a fire blast, at the cost of bash, repel, and a stupidity. The newspaper hat is kind of interesting because it gives us a stupidity card, but it also gives us wise, which increases our starting hand, which functionally counters the stupidity. So I will take that. So it'll provide us more good than bad. And now comes the stalling. A lot of it. I won't make you watch the stalling, but, well, I'll bring you back if something interesting happens. But the real goal with stalling is that for each room that we explore, that we disperse the clouds in, we gain money. So the more we explore, the more money we'll get from the mission. And since we only get to do these missions once, you gotta capitalize somewhere. Either way, we'll bring you back in due time. Well, looks like my ability to wander is over. Chiefly because, well, you do not have direct control over your Dungeoneer. You need to lure them in order to get them to go where you want them to go. The things which lure Dungeoneers are monsters that they can defeat. They would rather go to where there's a fight than an empty spot. Treasure, which is the highest priority, and unexplored areas, because you get money for doing that. But I'm not entirely certain that I want the... But whenever a Dungeoneer reaches a fountain, they drink from the fountain, and I'm not sure I want Navi to be on fire. So I should give her something to fight. Which, well, this will just make it a nasty rat. Now these giant bats, they have the loner trait, which means if they're put in a dead end, then they lose a hit point. However, when the game says dead end, they mean dead end. It's an actual one way in, no way out. You know, an unfinished corridor is not a dead end. If we put one there, then it loses a hit point. Also, as far as the room cards go, the game will always try to give you a card that you can place. You know, at least when the hand is dealt. But when you've actually fleshed out the entire dungeon, then you still get room cards. But they are always these 4-way cards, and, well, we can't place them. But, well, Navi here has had enough with the boredom of wandering around, so let us do battle with this rat. Aha! And we get both of our stupidity cards right out the gate. This is just great. Fortunately, we have defense cards on hand. So, that being said, I don't think there's a reason to be worried. Well, that sucks. That's an unblockable attack, so all my defense cards that I have mean nothing. Also unblockable. Alright, Navi, can you manage me the capacity to do damage? Good girl. Take this, rat. Aha!
Who'd have thought the way you fought, you'd be so very brave? Now we need somebody else to fill this empty grave.
As you can see, the spending time exploring the dungeon is pretty worthwhile. and all the loot that was gained was from various loot cards that I was dealt whilst exploring. Definitely want those. Piece of cake. Walk in the park. Hardly broke a sweat. So easy, in fact, your Dungeoneer can't possibly expect to be paid, can they? Take that loot for guild funds and make them earn their dinner. Well, the guild owner doesn't exactly just steal all the stuff that our Dungeoneer brought back. They do actually seem to get some money, which they then spend on a night of drunken revelry and promptly lose all of the abilities they had gained during the dungeon. Our Dungeoneers are not that sprite, but then that's why they work for this guild, clearly. That being said, we now have the capacity to expand our guild, which includes the ability to get new Dungeoneers, such as the Apprentice, who has plenty of magic, and also Ostart's talented fire spells. Oh, we could get the Mime, who has a pretty bizarre array of attacks which allows for crowd control abilities. Or quite possibly the training yard so that we can have a Bruiser. who has the spiky trait, which means if you completely defend and against all the damage of your opponent, you will deal damage to them. Unblockable damage at that. Or rather, it's untyped, which automatically makes it unblockable. Possibly the cat burglar, so that we can then have a whole bunch of cat puns. And they are covetous, so they get to choose from 4 treasure items when they defeat an opponent. Or if we can get things which build upon the Dungeoneers which we already have. Such as the Trickster's Favor, so let us have one more loot choice after for the first 2 fights. Or possibly +1 to the first physical damage for the first 2 fights. Or an extra hit point for the first 2 fights. Or or 1 more card for the first 2 fights. So we have a starting hand of 4 instead of 3. Or we could come over here and actually unlock new loot choices. The uncommon loots. Now, as far as the Dungeoneers go, I would like to farm out to you, my viewers, for names. If you know the class, if you know the game and know what class that you would like to name a Dungeoneer for, feel free to request that. And well, I will give priority to my Patreons and my subscribers, but anybody is free to suggest a name, and we will build based around the name and class suggestions that we get in. So we'll save building up the guild for next time. We'll see you then. Later.